Welcome to the 3Haunted podcast, where we bring you all things horror, supernatural, folklore, mythology, and all things that go bump in the night.
Hey guys, this is your co-host Ashley, Gorilla Girl filmmaker, lunar goddess, and cinephile.
And I'm your co-host John Thomas, ghost hunter, super smartass, and film lover extraordinaire.
What's up, ghouls, gals, and all my spooky story pals? In today's podcast, we'll be talking about urban legends. Will mixing Pop Rocks and Coke really make your head explode? What are some of the more common legends throughout the U.S.? What are some of the maybe more unusual ones? What really happens when you say a certain name in the mirror 3 times? Join us and returning special guests Lila and Shane for the evening to find out.
But first, a word from our network sponsor.
Are you looking for more awesome podcasts? Head on over to withoutyourhead.com for access to the Without Your Head podcast network, where you'll find a variety of podcasts sure to keep you entertained and coming back for more.
And we are back. Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing amazing.
That's good. That's great. I love to hear amazing.
Yeah.
Usually my default response is, I'm fine.
Okay, I guess.
I'm all right. Yeah.
Casual.
Everybody knows the F word, though, coming from a woman isn't probably a good thing to hear.
What, fine? Oh, yeah.
Fine. Fine.
Help. That's what it means.
Find me help.
Help.
Oh my
I'm fine.
God.
Help.
And now we know.
I'm fine. Blink once if you're not fine.
If you're being held hostage.
Oh my goodness. Welcome back, Lila. We're happy to have you into season 2. Last time we heard from you was season 1, so thank you for coming back.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be back. I appreciate it.
I'm so glad we didn't scare you off.
Not yet. It's a bit too soon.
It's early in the season. I'll give it a go. Challenge accepted. So today we're talking about urban legends. And, I didn't really like the movies. I don't know if you guys saw any of the urban legends movies. I wasn't a fan of those.
I have all 3 of them.
But I am a fan of the concept of urban legends. So when you hear urban legends, what's the first one that sticks out to you that you remember?
Bloody Mary.
Yeah. I would say the Pop Rocks one.
Pop Rocks and soda. I didn't even know that. To be honest, I didn't know that urban legend until I watched the urban legend movies. I just didn't know that was a thing. That one completely bypassed me growing up. Curiosity, because I feel like urban legends are like a game of telephone, depending what region you're in, depending just, I guess, the generation you're in, the urban legend kind of just morphs, right? It evolves and it just is not what it probably originally started off as. So going into Bloody Mary, what do you know about it? Like, what are the rules that you heard, John?
Well, this all goes back to like 5th grade. I just remember we were at a park or something and somebody was telling me that they went into the bathroom and they said Bloody Mary's name, 3 times, and she appeared and scared the crap out of them. And that was enough for me to go, okay, I'm not going to do that. So let's not.
What about you, Lila or Shane? Have you heard anything different in that, or is that pretty consistent with what you heard?
Yeah, it's pretty consistent. I know I tried it and whenever I could, but nothing happened.
Yeah, I feel that Bloody Mary is a pretty consistent one. That one's very straightforward, to the point. Say your name 3 times, something's gonna happen. Whereas different urban legends kind of vary. And I think, like you said, it depends on what region you're in. It depends on the environment that you grew up in and where you started hearing these things from,
It's a question for you guys. Lights on or lights off?
Oh, lights off for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because where I grew up, that was important. Some people aren't familiar with that. They think they can do it with lights on. But like where I grew up, lights have to be off. Or you can say it in the mirror, but as soon as you're finished with the 3rd one, you have to turn the lights off.
Right, and then someone turns the lights out or lights on and then screams really loud and scares the shit out of everybody in the room.
Exactly.
Classic.
I do see that in the earliest version of this tale, an unwed woman would see the face of the man she'd marry in the glass. However, if she was destined to die alone, she'd see a skull.
Oh,
Yep.
That's brutal.
And then it eventually evolved into something more sinister where participants would see the bloody face of a woman. Do not dare summon her.
So I wonder where she came from. What's her origin story?
I would imagine something along the same lines as the La Llorona.
See, that's the urban legend I think of. When I hear urban legends, I think of La Llorona.
You are Latina, right?
Yeah, my Hispanic background. That's what we grew up with. That's our fear. And man, we were told that like young, little, like do not walk by yourself near waterways, like whether it's a river or a creek or like anything. Do not walk by yourself near there because La Llorona will come and get you and drag you into the river and drown you. Yeah. And it's like, whoa. That's intense to be told as a child.
And see, that's odd. Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's just so crazy because I haven't. So I work now in a predominantly Spanish community now, and I was just talking with one of my employees, and she said the same thing. Growing up, her mom is into that. She's into the what do you call the Mexican shamans?
Curandera.
Yeah, curandera. So she's into that lifestyle. So she definitely was into the evil eye and telling about La Llorona and everything. But that urban legend runs so deep that everyone of Latin background is told that as a child, like, "Hey, be good," or "La Llorona will get you." That's amazing.
It's it's interesting. It's not even like if you're good or bad. Like La Llorona does not discriminate. It's if you're out, and I guess maybe there is some kind of like you're being bad if you're out when you're not supposed to be and you're off by yourself near these waterways, you're going to be dragged in and you're going to be drowned. And that I was doing some research on like the origin of her, like where does this come from? Is it just like a tell to keep kids from wandering by themselves near at night or near rivers where they could be in peril if they're young, like they could end up drowned because they're just slipping into the waterways, so keeping kids safe by scaring them? Or is there something more behind it? And looking it up, I found that there's something that goes back as far as like the 1500s. There was the Florentine Codex, and apparently in late Mexico it was quoted, the sixth omen was that many times a woman would be heard going along weeping and shouting. She cried out loudly at night saying, "Oh, my children, we are about to go forever." So basically, as we know her in the Hispanic culture, it's a lady who drowned her children. And now she's like, she goes out and drowns everybody's children. So this idea that like, wow, that was already back in the 1500s and it's still being carried to this day is pretty intense, pretty interesting.
Yeah, I was reading up on it just now too, and it looks like her name was Xochitl.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And that's got the Native American mixture in there, by the way. That's an Aztec name, which kind of is interesting, right? Because we see the idea of skinwalkers and stuff like that really heavy in the Native American culture. And we know, especially with like the Chicano movement, they embrace their Native American roots, the Aztec roots a bit more, and kind of reasserting that into their Hispanic heritage. So it's interesting that this kind of stuff crosses over and that it's just still carries so strongly to this day, right? Like, I was legit scared as a kid of this woman. What about you, Lila? When you hear urban legends, what do you think of?
I mean, I feel like I get a bit mixed up in urban legend versus superstition or storytelling and kind of figuring out where that line is. So what defines an urban legend? What makes that a legend? Where does that come from? I mean, like we talked on before, I definitely think Bloody Mary, but also more recently, I don't know how familiar you all are with Denver International Airport, but how are these conspiracy theories go on with, are there aliens here? Maybe. Is there a city underneath? Because I was reading up, and it's been pretty debunked as of now, or maybe that's just a cover-up, that there's a hidden city under Denver International Airport. And so it kind of gets you thinking, what's going on there, if anything at all?
And they all play hacky sack and smoke weed.
Perfect. Love that for them. The aliens are having a great time.
Getting a mile high, a mile below.
Exactly.
All the corporations moved into Boulder and pushed them out, so they had to go somewhere.
And what cracks me up about that is that DIA, they feed into it. So they've got construction going on all over the airport, so things are blocked off. And they've got these posters saying, oh, what are we doing here? Illuminati, maybe? Who knows? They feed into it,
That's
and I
funny.
love it.
That's awesome.
It's like joking, but not joking. They're like,
exactly.
Well, are we really joking? It's like the villains that tell you they're evil. I'm like, I'm about to do this to you. And it's like, oh, that's funny. And it's like, No, they're like legit.
Oh, really?
Exactly.
He's really about to disembowel you. I hear you, and I feel that. I feel like when it becomes something that continues on, and it becomes more widespread, it becomes an urban legend. So maybe once upon a time, it was a conspiracy theory, but now it's gone on for decades. That I think it is. It's classified as an urban legend that they're building some kind of new world order city underneath CIA, and that Blucifer is somehow related to it. And if people don't know who Blucifer is, it's that big blue demon horse in front of DIA.
We'll post pictures of the demon horse for sure.
It's an icon.
Demon horse.
John and Lila, you're in Colorado
Yes,
right now?
he's in
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So have you guys visited Third Bridge?
I have.
Okay.
I have. And I got goosebumps just now just even thinking about it. But
Is that the bridge we were trying to think of the name?
Yeah, that's the bridge.
Oh, okay. That was
Yeah.
it. That was it. We heard about the same bridge in high school. Everybody was like, it's haunted, and it's
Yeah.
like all these things, and I couldn't remember the
Yes,
name of it.
yes.
You found it.
Yeah, I found it.
yes, I've been there a few times, and first time there was not much that went on, but the second time I did hear footsteps, and there was nobody else with us. There was two of us, and there was nobody else around, and the two of us were just standing still, not moving, and footsteps were coming close, and actually saw a shadow figure go in front of the car lights, and again we were both standing still, nothing happened. So that was just weird as all hell. But yeah.
So yeah, apparently it's haunted by the Native Americans that were killed there during Sand Creek, the Battle of Sand
Yes.
Creek.
Yes. The sound of drums though has been debunked because there's like empty silos or something there, and when the wind blows through it, it sounds like somebody's beating on the drums. So that's been debunked. But yeah, the other stuff I haven't been able to debunk yet, so we'll see.
Bang on the drum all day.
Yeah, I don't think I actually ever went out to Third Bridge.
Well, going to Colorado still, did you hear of Riverdale Road in Thornton?
I don't think so.
Is that the one where the lady in white ends up in your car? Or...
Yeah, there's a couple of them. There's like the lady in white that's supposed to hitchhike, and when you open your door, she actually disappears.
That's, by the way, to all who don't know the lady in white, that is actually the white version of La Llorona.
Yeah.
Without the stealing of kids part, she'll just murder you.
Right, pretty much.
Oh, well, that's optimistic.
And it's funny too, because when you get into it, like a bunch of places actually have a lady in white. So it's like, I don't know, they're all over the place. But yeah. There's some other things like jogger was hit by a car once upon a time, and other drivers feel like when they're driving, they hit a bump or whatever, they feel a bump on their car, like the jogger's smacking their car as they walk by or drive by. And sometimes people, hear footsteps while they're walking, or the sound of a heartbeat as well. And one of the scarier ones is like there was a kid that got hit by a car, and he walks around leaving bloody handprints on the signs, but the blood disappears in the morning, and it's gone. It's not there anymore.
That's awesome.
It's a neat party trick.
Right.
I remember there was probably still is, but there was an urban legend in the Bay Area after the big quake, 89, I think it was it? The big quake that happened, it basically cut the Bay Bridge in half, and it collapsed, and some people died. But there's been an urban legend ever since that there's a guy, there's a headless jogger that's running next to your car. So sometimes you'll see this guy without a head, and he's just running right next to your car while you're driving across the Bay Bridge. So if you're scared of bridges, like that's just like,
makes it worse.
you'll never go anywhere again.
Not the place to be.
I've been here long enough to know which one the Bay Bridge is now, and I am not going to be looking out the side of my window anymore. Just looking straight ahead as I drive across. Just straight ahead. Stay focused. Oh my gosh. That's nope. And we have to pay a toll to get across the bridges, so I feel like you're paying to be terrified.
I mean, don't we anyway?
I mean, yeah.
It's true. We do.
There's the Church of Satan, I believe. Isn't that the Bay Area? Or the Anton LaVey's old house?
It sure is.
She's like, I know exactly where it is.
Yeah.
Yes, because they had their headquarters very close to the Sutro Baths and the Cliff House in San Francisco. And apparently The Sutro baths have tunnels underneath them that go, I guess, towards their church. Now, I don't know if it's like chicken or the egg. Was their church created before or after? Like, what was the purpose of the tunnels? But originally, I guess the purpose of the tunnels were to connect the baths, and it was supposed to be just like really cool, but the bathhouses never took off. And there were some fires shortly after they were constructed that caused havoc at the Cliff House and the Sutro baths. And so that apparently created a bunch of hauntings and ghosts and supernatural. But in the tunnels, it was said that the Church of Satan used those tunnels to conduct a lot of rituals. And so if you go down there, apparently you can still find things from their rituals and their pentagrams and all sorts of things that were etched into the tunnels. I find it interesting. One of the urban legends, I don't want to test this out, if you light a candle and you walk from one end of the tunnel to the other, all the way, and then you get to the end, as you reach the end, someone will knock the candle out of your hand. Like, you won't see the person, but they will knock it hard out of your hand into the water. And
You don't want to test that out? Why not?
I'm good. I'm so fine.
Sounds like a fun Sunday night.
I mean, road trip. I'm coming to Cali.
Yeah. Sounds like a perfect footage for
Bring the candles.
for paranormal
Right?
camera.
I'm good.
Come on,
No.
Ash. I'm going to visit California. We're going to go do that.
Okay, well, you know what? Let's go for it. I'm down.
I'll hold the candle.
So has anyone heard of the spider bite?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Oh, we gotta go into spiders.
Possibly one of the more believed urban myths. This one tells a tale of a young person, often a traveler, to a far-flung location who is bitten by a spider and or ant. On returning home, the victim experiences hatching, whereby parasitic baby spiders and or ants burst out from under the skin. That's from
Scary stories to tell in the dark.
Scary stories to tell in the dark.
I
yeah.
loved those books when I was a kid.
I still
Did not
love
like
those
that
books.
story though. I'm so arachnophobic.
Yeah, I
Like-
am too.
Like that messes with
Yeah,
me.
that part in the movie,
Oh.
too, was just like, no.
Oh, it's
Oh, yeah.
disgusting.
Right?
Oddly satisfying, though.
I disagree. I have to disagree.
It's like, I just want to just...
Yeah.
Not satisfying.
Nope.
It's like Dr. Pimple Popper meets
Oh,
arachnophobia.
God. Ew.
Disgusting.
Just saying. That's what that scene was.
You're definitely not wrong, but you.
Oh, indeed. Oh, the spiders. No, I used to be terrified of that. Anytime as like a preteen, I would see like even maybe like a small pimple. I'm like, oh God, spiders. that story fucked with me.
So, Lila, how old are you?
I'm 22.
You're 22, so you're youngish. I would say the Slender Man is probably a newer urban legend, right?
Slender Man was definitely a thing back when I was in middle school. I want to say from like 2011 through 2013 was when I like first heard about it, and that was a big thing. I used to walk home from school with a friend of mine who was very into Slender Man, and we had to cross a creek, and there were all of these wooded areas that we'd have to pass through. So once it started getting dark earlier in the night, once fall hit, tried to get home as fast as we could. Because it was never a thing that I believed in, but I was hanging out with a friend who was very invested in it, and I was not about to stay around in the forest at night to figure out Slender Man was actually real.
Yeah, and all you have to do is think about it, really. And if you're in that scenario where it's quiet, you can hear the noises,
Exactly.
and all the sounds and stuff, and then your mind starts to work. God, the psyche is a dangerous thing.
Mm-hmm.
It sure is.
The hallucinating. Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure John's heard about the famous kidney heist, right?
Oh, God,
It's an
yes.
urban legend. Yeah.
Yes. I'm going to mute my microphone.
I think it adds to the ambiance of the podcast.
You're not wrong, yeah.
These police sirens as we're
Yeah.
talking
A little
about
creepy.
these kidney
And we
things.
just talked about the kidney heist.
I was like, that was perfect,
There you go.
actually. Yeah, that was great.
So what do you know about the kidney heist?
I just know that, it varies, basically. Somebody goes out with somebody, they get them drunk. They wake up in a tub full of ice, and they've got a nice little mark on their side, and their kidney's gone.
Here, that's a great prank, by the way.
What?
I like this guy.
Sure.
I like him. He's great.
Yeah. I like to harvest souls, not organs. So
Can't sell
Less
souls, though.
cleanup.
organs are messy. Souls are nice and clean.
There you go.
So Lila gets me. She's like, let's clean up. Yup.
She gets it.
There we go. She gets it.
Learning more about my child as we go along.
So, have you guys heard of Hell's Gate Bridge? It's in Alabama.
I did read up a little bit on it, yes.
So I like it because I feel like a lot of regions have the same concept. So
Right.
even though there's a specific to their bridge, I like that no matter where you've lived, you've probably heard a variation of this. So this couple drives off the bridge, they drown, they die. So and I think that was like in the 50s. And so now if you drive across the bridge, you stop halfway through, you turn your lights off, the couple will appear behind you in your rearview mirror. And then if you turn around to see them, they're no longer there, but your back seats are wet from where they were there. So it's like dun, 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 dun. That's I guess the premise of part of that, but I like the second part. So people have like two different ideas of what goes on this bridge. So either that happens, like you see the spooky couple, or you drive halfway across the bridge, you stop your car, you turn around, and over your shoulder, if you look behind you, everything behind you on the bridge and behind it is a portal to hell. So you see fire and flames and doom and gloom and brimstone. And so it's just like, wow, two very different things are going to happen if you drive halfway through that bridge. I hope I see the couple because I really don't want the portal to hell. But hey, you never know. It's like trick or treat. What am I going to get this time?
Gotta weigh your options. Which is the lesser of the two evils.
Or I just don't drive across the bridge.
Also a safe choice.
The interesting thing with that bridge, though, is you can't drive across it anymore. The city, because there was a lot of people doing that and teens were getting hurt because you're just stopping on a bridge, right? Like, this is an active working bridge. And turning off your car lights, probably not the smartest thing to do. Accidents happen. So what they did is they actually decommissioned the bridge. And over time, it just got run down and no longer in use. So they let it just fall apart, basically, so people don't use it.
Which kind of feeds into it more, if you ask me, because it makes it even spookier.
It really does. And I think it feeds into it, like, why are you keeping people off the bridge? Is it really accidents?
Or is it hell?
Dun, dun.
Yeah. I was reading up on one that was kind of creepy. Cropsey.
Yeah.
Staten Island.
Yeah.
Oh, Candyman.
So there's a couple versions of this story, but in the end, it's all based around this guy named Andre Rand, and he was the janitor at Willowbrook State School before it shut down in 1887. After that, he continued living on the grounds of the school and is suspected to be responsible for the disappearance of several children. Though this was never proven to be true, he was found guilty of kidnapping in 1988 and again in 2004. 2004. That's recent enough to be like, wow, that's gross.
In our time.
Yeah, so apparently he was living underneath the school or in the school and was hunting children and was an axe murderer and yeah.
So it's interesting because I feel like that started as an urban legend, but someone copycatted the urban legend and brought it to real life.
So you think Andre Rand went off the energy of the urban legend?
Yeah, because it depends. Like, I did some research on the Cropsey, and it sounds like the idea started based on, like, the sanitarium. And it was something like, it went so far back. And then this guy kind of was inspired, if you will, by it and took it on himself. I'm trying to find the origin. Give me just a moment.
Copycat killer.
Yeah.
There was a show on Netflix. I think it was called Cropsey as well. It was a few years ago. It might still be on there, but it was all about that, which was interesting. Have to look and see if it's actually still there.
Yeah, because it says parents used Cropsey to frighten their children into being good and staying near home.
God, what a horrible thing.
It said, after all, Cropsey could be anywhere waiting to strike. And so this was being used for quite some time. He was the boogeyman of Staten Island, is what he was known as. And then in the 1980s, a guy actually took it on and started killing children. So it really was like a copycat. He took the urban legend and copied it and brought it to life, which I think is terrifying, because if you think about how many urban legends we have out there, all it takes is one psycho to get inspired and run amok.
Amok.
I mean, I feel like it's Marvel movies at that point. You got a whole lot of information or a whole lot of material to work with. You know, you can pick which one that you want to be inspired by and
Just take it.
just go to work. Yeah.
I think the scariest thing about that is that this and other urban legends have started as a way for parents to keep their kids safe. Like, hey, don't do this or else this is going to happen. Do this so bad things don't happen to you. And then bad things do end up happening because it becomes so popularized, like in this case.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where a lot of our urban legends come from, is just these moral of the stories trying to teach lessons to frighten, because fear teaches anybody, whether it be kids, adults, whatever, into not doing something. But then that's used as a roadmap for people to kind of take it and run with it. It's kind of just disturbing, because you think about, like, we were just talking about, like, La Llorona. If some lady does go out there and start, or someone dresses up like a lady and starts drowning children, stuff like that, that's just like, whew.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some that are less likely to come, to life. Like, I'm gonna copycat Bloody Mary. That's not gonna happen. Like,
No, that's just
I don't think so.
very, very good prank.
There's global legends as well. I mean, there's every culture, like the Philippines, have different like witches. There's a I forget what it's called. I think it's a yaoi. But basically, like, almost seems like almost every culture has its own version of a shapeshifter type person, which in the Philippines, it's almost like a witch slash shapeshifter. And what's cool about it is there's a video that was on Paranormal caught on camera, and they were looking at the video, and this thing walks right through a steel gate, just almost like Terminator in the liquid metal one. Walks right through the gate and then goes into almost, it becomes like this man. From like this mist to this man, and he just keeps walking, and they think it's one of those shapeshifters in the Philippines, and they basically prowl and hunt for children at night.
Interesting.
I think there's a lot of stuff out there that we don't understand, and I think that's where a lot of urban legends come from.
And I think some of it is also just we have to consider when they originated, and people, I think, trying to apply logic to things that they just didn't understand at the time, whether it be lack of science or trying to justify very traumatic, sad things. So, for example, in Kansas, there's Stoll Cemetery. I don't know if you guys know about that, but that's also called the doorway to hell.
Perfect.
Yeah, I know, right? Everywhere goes to hell. The devil has many, many entrances, pun intended. So, not a pun. That's just funny. Entendre intended. So, in the middle of the cemetery, there is a tree and a tombstone, and the tombstone on it says witch, and they believe that the tree is where they used to hang witches. The center is where, I guess, the portal to hell is. But on the tombstone, or in the tombstone, they do believe that that is an actual grave. And it was said to be the grave of the devil's child. And they said a baby was buried there that was deformed and covered in wolf hair. So that's really sad, because if you think about it, it's like, take it at face value. Like, people hear, deformed, covered in wolf hair. And it's like, ooh, monster. But you think about it, and it's like, we're probably talking about a child that actually was born, like, deformed, right? That people didn't understand. Yeah, or something. A lot of kids are born with that baby hair, that they're covered in hair, and it, like, comes off. It's like that primal that still carries on, that hasn't kind of evolved out yet. So some babies are covered in hair when they're born, and over a week, it kind of just falls off. It's cute. They sometimes look like little baby monkeys, but if you think about that, let's apply that to back then. And it's like, holy cow, that probably was like just a regular baby that was born with some conditions. People thought it was the devil because they didn't know science then. And who knows what happened to this poor child? And they're like, it's the devil's baby. And they bury it there. And it's like, holy moly, that's sad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do completely agree with that. I'm sure there was so much ignorance way back in the day when it came to applying judgment on individuals. But I also think there's a lot of stuff out there that we don't still to this day, even with all of our science, understand. I mean, you take the Middle Eastern belief of the jinn, for instance, and, you know, I have several Middle Eastern friends, and they believe in the jinn, that they believe that the jinn is not a ghost or a demon necessarily, but it's an interdimensional being. And it's existing on another dimension at the same time. And we see it interact with our dimension. So I think there are things like that. And I think there's things left over from a long time ago that we still don't understand, or that maybe we're just too afraid to understand. But for sure, like with the whole Salem witch trials, I think that was just a bunch of, that was like a bitch fest, you know? Like I don't like Nancy. She's a witch.
I think it was more like a kill the bitches fest. I don't know.
Yeah. Kill the bitches.
Kill the bitches, but she's a witch. Yeah, and I mean, to your point, like, there's still so much we don't know. It's not like we've reached our peak of understanding and knowledge. So even now, there's still so much fast forward. Like back then, you know, this child that's deformed and everybody thinks it's like the devil's child. There's something that could probably happen now where we would evoke the same response, like, oh my God, it's Satan or something like that. And we still don't understand. There's still so much we don't know. And similar to what you were saying about like the jinn, you know, I have people that I know that they're just like, you know, demons aren't even real. Demons are beings we just don't understand. And they're neither light nor dark. They call them elementals. And so they're elementals and we just don't understand. Who knows? I don't know. They're just a different form of a being. And same with angels, and same with like their words we're trying to place on things and beings that we don't understand. And who knows? I don't know.
Well, it all comes from experience, really. Yeah. You know, it does come from experience. And not enough people have it. But I feel like we live in a new age now to where, with mobile technology in our hand, the palm of our hands, and the ability to then film at a whim anything that's happening in front of us, that gives us more access to see what's going on and see these crazy things. That's one of the reasons why I love that show, Paranormal Caught on Cameras, because it's just people submitting videos, and it's just, there's some crazy stuff on there, you know? It's like, I have to change it sometimes. I'm like, nope. Nope.
Yep.
Yeah, and I feel like when we're watching stuff like that and we are out, whether it be at sutra baths or whatever place we're visiting that may have history, I think it is super important to take it back to your roots of listening to your intuition. Kind of like you said, you're watching this stuff and you know that moment you get hit with that feeling that says nope, and you turn it off. Because something in you is saying, that's
get out.
Yep, that's off. Yep. And we have to listen to that voice. Like, it's there for a reason. That instinct within us is there for a reason. And so it's good. It's good if you're listening to yourself, because I do feel sometimes like that is a use it or lose it muscle. And so the more we ignore it and the more we stop listening to that intuition, it stops talking to us.
Yeah, and that's where you get murdered.
Right? Or possessed. I'm all about listen to yourself.
I think, Shane, like you were talking about experiences, I think, not to get all philosophical, but here we are, that life really is just one big learning experience, and that comes from within ourselves versus our interactions with other people. So, like we talked about at the beginning with having different cultural experiences and different backgrounds and things like that, we all grow up in different environments, and that affects how we perceive the world. So the way that I might perceive something, or the way I might understand an urban legend or a story or whatever you want to call it, is going to be different from the way that you all perceive it. because we didn't have that same lifestyle. So I think it's important to realize that we've got to learn from each other and kind of take everything with a grain of salt. Like, one experience isn't exactly the correct experience.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I believe that's why there's multiple versions of every urban legend. It's different versions. The killer appears differently or does different things.
Right.
And, yeah, of course, makes perfect. Philosophize.
I think it's also important that with a lot of these urban legends, we are trained and conditioned as children, especially, to fear them. Like, they are used specifically to drive our fear, to get us to not do certain things. I think the point of a lot of these urban legends is to teach a lesson to keep people from harm or from doing what others may be consider bad behavior or non-obedient behavior. I think it's just important to start peeling off the layers of fear. It's okay, I think, to approach something and say, nope, that's not right. I don't want to expose myself to that. If you're watching something or you're somewhere and you get that get out voice inside of yourself. But I think sometimes it's also really good to pause and say, why am I feeling this fear? Is that instinct telling me to fear it because there truly is something to be feared, like there's danger present? Or am I fearing it because it's a conditioned reaction within myself? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So the bunny yip, or as the Australians say, the bunny yip,
Right.
is an Australian mythological creature, like if you crossed Bigfoot with the Loch Ness Monster. It lives in
What?
billabongs. Yeah. So if you cross Bigfoot with the Loch Ness Monster, I'm trying to envision that in my head.
So am I.
It lives. It's,
Is it like a hairy snake? What is it?
yeah, or a
Yeah.
I don't think that I want to.
Oh,
much.
oh. I walked into that. I set that one up and walked into it.
Would you like to see my bunny yip?
Would you? I did. Would you like?
I think we all learned together that we walked into it.
I don't even think you walked into it. I think you ran into it.
Some indigenous Australians tell a story that its feet are backwards. Just keeps getting better and better. So while you might think you're tracking the bunny yip, really, you've already crossed paths with it and it was watching you the whole time.
Right?
Just concealed in the bush. That's the part that freaked me out as a kid who spent a lot of time in the wilderness alone.
So this hairy snake is concealed in the bush.
Concealed in the bush. I feel like they just... maybe I just got pranked on reading that.
Oh my god, I can't.
I mean, it was all you. It wasn't any of us. Yeah.
You're on backwards. Okay.
I think I'm crying. I feel the tears coming. I'm laughing so hard. Okay.
You think you're crying? You don't know.
So do any of you know of any international ones that were scary?
I do not. I kind of stuck with U.S. stuff, unfortunately.
I mean, the only stuff I know of are like ones that are cryptids that do fall into the cryptid categories, like the chupacabra, or like, you know, you get the vampires and Dracula and stuff like that in Romania. I mean, I don't really know much outside of that.
Well, let's see. Well, there's, you know, the looks like there's the normal ones, Baba Yaga, Banshee, in Ireland. The Banshee. Banshee. So Banshee was something I was taught when I was growing up. The Banshee. If you hear a wailing woman, or if you see crows. So I learned or was taught a lot about Celtic shamanism when I was growing up, and I studied it when I was a teenager and practiced a little bit. And so there's a urban legend, not necessarily urban legend, but a folklore of if a woman comes to you or crows come to you or a carriage comes to you, a family member has died or you're about to die. And I would see crows constantly as a kid. So I would, you know, they would always follow me. It's weird because I had crows follow me at one point in my life. Every time I walked to school, I would have animals follow me to school. So I always thought, like, am I dying? Like, am I going to die? Is somebody I know going to die? And it was very funky.
So I had to review a film recently, and it was based on this. I don't know if it falls in the cryptid urban legend category, but it's the South African, and I don't know if I'm saying it right, but the Takalosh. And they're basically like these evil sprites that are almost like gremlin-like, and a person can call upon them to cause trouble for others. But if they're really like the person calling them, summoning them has like a truly malevolent like reason for it, these things will attack you in your sleep. So I thought that was kind of interesting because that might be a way of explaining nightmares, right? So like that might be someone's way of explaining justifying nightmares. Well, the Takalosh were called onto me to attack me in my sleep. So I thought that was interesting that's something that still is present day, something that kind of gets carried on through cultures.
Sometimes the name Takalosh refers to a dwarf zombie. Apparently, such a zombie can be created after removing the eyes and tongue from a full-sized corpse.
Oh.
Corpse is said to shrink after a heated iron rod is thrust into the skull. Life and obedience are breathed into the zombie by means of a secret powder blown into its mouth. Whenever means are used to create a Takalosh, the price includes the death of a relative within a year. The spirits do not give life freely. If you're prepared to create an unnatural person, you must be prepared to destroy a natural one. What am I reading right now?
Wow. That's pretty intense. That sounds heavily like crossing into like voodoo, right?
Yeah.
Like
that
voodoo
sounds
rituals.
like a voodoo witch doctor.
That does sound like voodoo rituals. Don't ask me how I know that.
Just the faces that she was making were fantastic. So I was just watching Ashley's face as you were reading that.
It's probably an unhealthy fascination when I hear stuff like that, but it's just like, holy cow. Can you just imagine the intricacies? Like, let's just pause and think about that for a moment. I don't know if any of you have read voodoo rituals and voodoo spells. I've gone through some. And like just what's on Google, it's really startling what you could Google. So it's like reading through these things, and it's just like I have probably a look mixed of horror and fascination when reading through these because they're so intricate. And it's just like, where do these come from? Like, I know a person had to create them, right? But just how in depth and the process of that is. And it's like, creativity, imagination. I don't know if I should be impressed or terrified or both, but it's just like, who thinks of, there's this thing called a voodoo cocktail, and you make it with like, I think it's lavender liquor, or is it lavender? It's something purple. And like all these other things as the base of a ritual. And I'm not going to give the recipe because I'm not out here promoting voodoo rituals, but like one of the spells that I read, the rituals that I read, is like you mix in the ashes of like whoever it is you're trying to impact in there, and you drink it, and it's just like, what? And it's not the ashes. Oh, let me clarify. It's not the ashes of the person. It's what you've gained from them, whatever you've gotten from their person, and you burn it. So, it's just like, who thinks of this stuff? Like, where does that inspiration come from? Because if I told you, okay, come up with a ritual. Here's what your goal is. Come up with like 10 steps. Where do those pieces come together? How do they fit them together? I just like, I'm sorry, I'm rambling off on a tangent, but it's interesting.
Well, I think it would be a lot like folklore. You know, any solid story that you still hear that's hundreds and hundreds of years old, I would almost be certain that it derived from some sort of truth. And it just gets kind of watered down or embellished over the time period. I mean, the same thing could be said about the Bible. Don't crucify me, no pun intended. But yeah, I think it derives from some sort of truth or coincidence, you know. So hey, if they took this and they did this, and everyone expects them. No, that must work. It must be zombie powder because they stayed awake for 3 days. No, that was acid.
It's probably the mushrooms I did in the forest. Like,
yeah, no, it's PCP. Yeah.
I mean, but we see that. Like, I know over time the drugs change, but the sacred ritual anointments change. But they're all hallucinogenics of some sort. And so, but to me, it's like, do the hallucinogenics really open up a pathway to those things? Or is it completely, psychological and chemical mixing with these? Or is it maybe somewhere in the middle? I don't know.
Somewhere in the middle, I bet. I think I found the new intro to your podcast, though, or at least for a musical track. It's called Gloomy Sunday. Gloomy Sunday, aka the Hungarian suicide song. The song has been linked to 18 suicides, including the composer's after his 69th birthday. The man who wrote the lyrics talks of depression and suicide. I used to fear that I was subconsciously being exposed to the song and being tricked into committing my own suicide. So in Vienna, a teenage girl drowned herself while clutching the piece of sheet music. In Budapest, a shopkeeper killed himself and left a note that quoted from the lyrics of the same song. In London, a woman overdosed while listening to a record of the song over and over. The piece of music that connects all these deaths is the notorious Gloomy Sunday.
That's really sad.
Let's listen to it.
No, you better not. I'm muting.
Oh, sorry.
Let's don't say we did.
Sunday, gloomy Sunday.
Mute.
No.
Okay, we're done. But what about urban legends when it comes to movies? Because those exist too. Like the Poltergeist movies, all the deaths that, came after that movie was filmed.
Or Exorcist.
The Exorcist, like all of the urban legends that do come along. So I feel like we as humans try to apply reason, even if it's supernatural reason, to things that we don't understand or makes us uncomfortable, like all of those subsequent deaths from the Poltergeist or the weird circumstances that occurred with the Exorcist filming. It's like, oh, it had to be the devil.
Or like when I brought it up for the craft, when they had all those weird occurrences happening as well. So yeah.
Oh, I didn't know about the craft. Interesting.
As I am loving the show. It's just like we're going all over the board in topics, but I love that. That's my favorite part of this. I feel like that is the heart and soul of this podcast, is like talking about weird shit and just seeing where the conversation goes.
I mean, I was gonna say that's usually how it goes anyway in person. So yeah.
Might as well record it.
Yeah, because I think about and that's what inspired us. I feel like having those 3 a.m. conversations and just weird shit coming up. But it's like, why are we bantering and joking? And it's like, why is this not being recorded? Because this is fun. We're probably the only ones that find it fun, but
I know a few people that do.
I was going to say the Exorcist movie was always interesting to me, and I actually researched it a little bit way back in the day. It was supposed to go off of the real story or the real events of an exorcism of a boy.
Of the boy, yeah.
And Reagan, she actually went through a lot of shit on that movie. Making the movie 1 and 2, right? Where she was tormented by an unseen force and all kinds of crazy stuff. But I watched the documentary of the real life exorcism. That's some crazy stuff. Exorcisms in general. I mean, you could say it's an urban legend, but if you're not Christian or if you're not super religious, you could say, oh yeah, the exorcisms are a urban legend, like possession's an urban legend. Because it's almost too scary to be believable as real.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things that scares me the most. So,
I think it's a slippery slope too, because not only is it too scary to be real, but it's also once it's believed to be accepted and real, just like the Salem witch trials, I think that's when you start having autonomy taken away by some people or used as justifications for things. Well, I murdered all 10 of those people because I'm possessed. That happened. That happened back in the day when they had that. I think they just made a movie about that where that guy murdered people and then said he was possessed. And there was a whole trial to prove if he was possessed. Yeah, is he really possessed?
Yep, it was The Conjuring. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, he got out.
Yeah.
He got out of prison and led a happy life and married the woman of his dreams.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see. Even you too can be redeemed. So, redemption. I feel like if possession were accepted as real and exorcisms were accepted as real, we talked about this in Demon Possessions last season, where does that line get drawn of forcing people into exorcisms, claiming someone's possessed because you don't like their behavior? So he's possessed and she's possessed because I don't like the way she thinks or dresses or looks. She's too spicy for my favor. That whore, she's possessed. And it's like, maybe I am. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
My favorite quote from that movie was, every time there's a trial, we tell the person to accept the existence of God, and now I think it's high time we accept the existence of the devil as well. And I said, it's a fair point. It absolutely is true. If there is a good, then there has to be an evil, because there's always a yin and yang.
Right, and that happened back in the 80s.
Oh, you were going to say something confounding, weren't you, Ashley?
Yes, look at that look on her face. Come on, spit it out.
I mean, we just talked about there's things that we don't understand, that we presume we're at the point of intellect and that we know we're at this peak of we know. It's almost like an arrogance. What if there is no such thing as good or bad? What if it really isn't a yin and yang? What if it's a spectrum, a full circular spectrum that we just don't understand, like a 4D concept that is beyond our grasp? So we try to apply these 2D principles of good, bad, evil, right, wrong, and it's really not that simple. Maybe there isn't just God or just devil, but that's what we apply to those concepts because we don't understand it, because it's external to us. We are not God, we are not devil, so we're trying to grasp it, but maybe it's out of our reach.
It's beyond our comprehension.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like that's what it's like when a man, the stories of men summoning demons to gain power, like the story of Mephistopheles. He summoned Mephistopheles to become a powerful sorcerer, and in the end, with his power, he ends up just becoming a drunkard and hanging out in a bar. And Mephistopheles approaches him and says, if you don't do something with your power soon, my boss isn't going to be happy. And so he didn't listen to him. And so one night, I believe the same inn still exists in Germany along the Rhine River, the owners and the guests of that inn or that tavern heard terrible screams from his room. And no one exited their room all night. And when they woke up, all they found in his room, in Faust's room, was a single eyeball in the corner of the room.
See, that sounds like an urban legend from way back in the day. So it was funny because when you started off with, that's what happens when a man, I thought you were going to say when a man tries to understand a woman. It's just not that simple.
No, that's what happens when a man tries to have ultimate power. He fucks it up.
Yeah, well.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. So that's like an old urban legend.
Well, it's one of the most famous demonology tales.
Lila, you have been very quiet this evening.
Yeah.
Tell us a joke. Tell us a story. How you doing?
A joke? Oh, I don't know if I have any jokes. No, I was letting you guys go through the exorcism stuff because I just thought that was fascinating and I wanted to hear what you were saying. But, there is a really good point on if we're believing in good, then we should be believing in bad. But Ashley, like you said, what if it's one big circle? It is fascinating to think of, can exorcisms be considered as an urban legend? And it, again, just really depends on who you talk to. It really depends on their background and their experiences. And I feel like I just keep going through my own little cycle in my head here, but like full circle, it really just, it depends.
I think urban legends are absolutely subjective.
Exactly. And I think it goes back to superstition as well, like I was talking about earlier of, well, can we say that this is a legend, or do we think that this person is just superstitious and they had a funny little tale and now it's just completely blown up into this big old chaotic mess that people are talking about hundreds of years down the road.
I'm going to create my own urban legend this year.
Oh,
during
God.
Halloween.
So if you hear about Silas the Clown tormenting children in Northern California,
right,
you know where it came from.
They haven't seen anything like it in Lincoln.
Oh, gosh.
Excellent.
I'd like to think I'm not an urban legend. I'm just a legend.
Boom.
Oof.
Wow.
Did you guys hear of this is in Kentucky, the goat of Pope Lick. I think that's hilarious because all I want to call it is the goat of Lick-a-Pope. But he's a goat man. It's a man that's a goat. Now, I like his origin story, though, because, I'm all about origin stories. Where does it come from? My mind has to know where and why and how and all the things. So, Goat of Poplick. He originated from a farmer who was making deals with the devils and sacrificing his goats and torturing and tormenting his goats as offerings to the devil. Well, the devil, doesn't play nice, not the most upholding of gentlemen, and he turned him into a goat man. So now you have this guy who lives forever as a goat man. Goat lick a pope.
Interesting. And that's where the term "ye old goat" came from. No, that's not where that came from?
Probably not.
Oh, could be. I'm reading more on the bunny yip because I'm absolutely fascinated about a...
He's fascinated with hairy snakes hiding in the bush.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
I can't stop myself.
That's like the 17th time you've hit that damn microphone.
I don't even care. I don't care. It's so funny.
I wonder how many people, after listening to this podcast, are going to call their member the bunny yip from now on.
I mean, it's in Australia,
I'm
so
sorry,
it's only
Lila. Earmuffs.
it's only fitting because the bunny yip is from down under.
We just keep getting worse. Oh, boy.
It's so bad, it's good.
There you go.
Its most unusual form is said to be that of an enormous starfish.
What?
What? So it's
Wait,
the thing
hang
from
on,
the
hang
Suicide Squad?
Yeah, repeat that.
Its most unusual form is said to be that of an enormous starfish.
So it's Starro. Okay.
Yep, there you go.
Got it.
That's where my brain went.
Mine went to Limp Bizkit.
Chocolate starfish?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it bunny yip or bunyip?
It's
Depends on where you're from.
a tomato.
BUNYIP? Bunyip or bunny yip?
Bunyip.
Bunyip?
Bunyip.
Bunyip. I think bunny yip sounds cuter, but
You like to see my bunyip?
This is just a matter of how many times can we say the word now.
I think it's just a matter of how drunk am I before I attempt to say that.
Bunyip.
Bunny yip. Bunny yip yip yip.
It's like a Wham song. Bunyip.
Turn the podcast into a drinking game however many times Bunny Yip is said.
You heard it here first, folks.
There you go.
The long-necked variety is allegedly between 5 and 15 feet long and is said to have black or brown fur, large ears, small tusks, a head like a horse or emu, and elongated... So if we're talking about drugs playing into urban legends, I would say this would be a
All of
great
them.
candidate.
Are we still talking about the same thing?
The bunny yip.
That's what it says. Descriptions of the bunyips vary widely.
Yeah, obviously. I'm like, we went from a starfish.
So apparently a bunch of Aborigines were just like on acid and just saw whatever. Like, oh, that looks like a...
I think it's just a free-for-all. Like, it's a
Yeah.
catch-all. This is what we call anything that looks fucking weird in Australia.
May have collected...
Got it.
It says account of a water spirit. So I guess the translation of the word bunyip is usually translated by Aboriginal Australians today as devil or evil spirit. Contemporary, I can't read. Contemporary translation may not, I'm squinting, accurately represent the role of bunyip in pre-contact Aboriginal mythology. And by the way, I mean, Aborigines are one of the oldest race in the world. So, I mean, it's likely they see some shit, but they also go on spirit, or what is it, walkabouts. Walkabout.
Yes.
It's one last one. The Legend of Hanako-san.
Ooh, what's that?
The spooky Japanese ghost of the school bathroom. So, according to ghost stories in Japan, there are spirits everywhere, even in the strangest of places. Believe it or not, school bathrooms, there are especially well known to be haunted. And a trip to the bathroom can put you in contact with a whole slew of spooky characters. Most that will get in your face if you have the misfortune of walking into their territory. But the most famous of all the school's ghosts usually won't appear unless you actually summon her. Her name is Hanako-san, and many people can't resist trying to make her appear no matter what the consequences. In Japan, there are telltale signs that a disturbed ghost named Hanako-san has taken up residence in the school. Once word gets around, then the dares will start up. Who's brave enough to go in the third stall? So it's always the third stall. stall. And some people will hang back and encourage others, while some. So how do you do it? So they'll stride right up the door, usually with a group of giggling girls in a row, and begin the ritual to summon Hanako-san. It's quite a simple thing, really. All you have to do is stand very close to the door of the third stall, knock 3 times, and ask, "Are you there, Hanako-san?" Afterwards, there's always a stretch of silence, which seems to last forever. Right around this time, everyone else will tend to run out of the bathroom and abandon the poor person to their fate alone. Then, if Hanako-san is really there, she will answer in a slow whisper, "Yes, I am here." According to the legend of Hanako-san, what happens next will vary depending on what school you're in. Oh, that's interesting. So if she's like a soccer fan or something like that. Sometimes a hand will bust through the door and drag the person into the stall and kill them.
Oh, okay.
So if like you're a soccer fan or something, usually after the pause, the stall door will open just a slight bit. Then, if the person is brave enough, they will be able to push the door open, revealing Hanako-san herself.
You gotta stop repeating her name. I'm getting creeped out.
Hanako-san is described as having a very pale white skin and as always wearing a red skirt. Her hair is short and black, done in an old-fashioned style. It's obvious that she's a girl of school age, but it's not known why she will harm some people and not others. Interesting. Sometimes she's even been said to protect kids who are being bullied by classmates or having problems with other ghosts. So she'll protect you against other ghosts. That's good.
Sweet.
Nice.
I'm gonna call her.
Good thing this all takes place in the bathroom because I'd be so scared shitless that I'd have to be.
Yeah.
You just said you're in the bathroom scared shitless. That's just funny. So, your homework, Lila, is
Yes.
I think she's
Continue.
challenging you.
to go to the third stall of the Target bathroom and
Target.
knock on the door.
It's always the third stall.
Always the
Yeah,
third
third
stall. And usually it's a female's bathroom.
Yeah, and there's like such power within a name, like Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice.
Hanako-san.
Stop it!
Yes, I'm here.
And what's with these high maintenance bitches that have to have their name said like multiple times to show up? Like, can't I just say it once with like
Hanako-san, are you
passion?
here? Paint my nails.
With emphasis.
Buy me a Starbucks.
Oh no.
Could you braid my hair?
Dooney and Burke.
Dooney and Burke. What? I don't even think that's like big
A
anymore.
thing anymore?
Yeah,
No.
I think it's still around. I just don't think it's as trendy. Louis Vuitton.
Oh, dear.
Oh no.
BTS.
Yay, K-pop. Oh man. So what? That one got me. Like, ooh, I was
Yeah,
leaning in.
I can see it.
Yeah, I wanted to save that for last, so there you go.
Thank
All right,
you.
everyone, good night.
So funny.
And break.
And cut. So, what about you guys, John and Lila? Any final, you want to freak me out before I have to go to bed? Because this is not fucking funny.
Again, you know my phone is always here. I'm always there. So,
This is why you're my bestie.
wasn't there one about your auditorium in high school in Kennedy? Wasn't the auditorium haunted? I remember hearing
Oh, I'm
stuff.
sure that we had stories. I wish that I remembered any of them. But I mean, listen, we were all theater kids. We hung out. It was dark. It was creepy. We wanted to scare each other. So I wish that I remembered stories.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too because I mean, since our aunts went to that school too when they
Right.
were younger, I remember hearing them talking about it. So I was just kind of thinking maybe it went all the way up.
I feel like most high school auditoriums have haunting stories associated with them.
Right.
Oh, I'm sure.
Well, there's so much energy there, right?
Right.
I think because there's just so much tragedy on the stage.
Oh.
Ouch. Yikes.
Oh, you're
Off the
welcome.
stage.
The scariest part of that story, John, was Ashley's joke.
It was kind of bad. That's
The
why we love
effort
her.
was there.
It was A for effort.
A for Ashley.
And Ashley.
He just rolled his eyes at me. You
Stepping on my jokes.
better
I mean, it
than
is her
stepping
name.
on your balls. Okay, so
Bunyip.
bunny up. I feel like that's the new like safe word. Bunny up.
I don't know how safe that is, but okay.
Bunyip. Bunyip.
And that'll definitely make somebody stop. We're like, what the fuck are you saying? What?
Waving your arms around bunny.
Bunyip. for God's sake, Bunyip.
Yes, we need help. Please
We
send
need
people.
help. Or just say help. Oh my gosh. You guys are hilarious. Thank you so much, Lila and Shane, for coming on. We appreciate you so much. This was a great episode, and thank you both for coming on and talking to us about this awesome and creepy topic. John, bring us home.
All right. Like Ashley said, thank you guys very much. We appreciate it, for sure. It's definitely been fun. And thank you to everybody who is tuning in to 300 Podcast with your host. I'm John Thomas.
I am Ashley, Lunar Goddess.
And if you have any questions, comments, or episode suggestions, please email us at 300podcast@gmail.com. Also, if you haven't done so already, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to our social medias. You don't want to miss one crazy moment.
Until next time.
Bunyip.
But yip, yip, yip.